doubling your TSP, your thrift savings plan. It's got a good ring to it. Doubling the amount of money that you have in retirement. That for all of us is an incredible goal that we all want to achieve. We all want to double the money we have invested as quickly as we possibly can. If we're younger in our career, then you want to double it multiple times, lots of times. You want to keep doubling and growing your money, but doubling your TSP, well, easy to say, isn't always the easiest to do. There's lots of different things you have to get right in order to double your money and grow your money in your TSP as quickly as you possibly can. Today, we're going to be talking about those things. It's like 6 or 7 things. I didn't count them up before I started recording, but there's a long list of things that we're going to talk about that if you do these well, you have the best chance of having your money grow as fast as possible over time. And we're not going to mess around. We're going to start right away. And the first one is the most obvious, right? And we're going to go to some of the less obvious ones. But the first one, you certainly should be doing already, but I have to mention it because we all can improve here, is you want to be maxing out the TSP as best as you possibly can. Maxing it out. Now, when I say maxing it out, for some people, that is really putting in the max the TSP will allow you to invest. The max, right? For 2022, that's $20,500. If you're under 50, if you're 50 and above, that's $27,000. So if you can do that, max that thing out. Get as much money into it every single year. That's the first side of the equation, is how much money are you putting in every year? Obviously, the investments are important, but the one thing that you have most control over is max that out. Now, I know many federal employees, there's a big spectrum on how much they're paid, right? Whether it's on one end or the other. Now, for you, regardless of where you're at, what can you do to improve? When's the next pay raise that you're gonna have? What little piece of that pay raise can you put in the TSP? Maybe you pay off a car. Maybe you got a little extra cash flow. What piece of that can you put into your TSP? As things change in your life, is slowly every opportunity you get, you put a piece of that into your TSP, then you'll be at the max in no time. You just have to have that as a priority over time to max out as much as you can into the TSP every pay period. Now, number 2, the second thing that you definitely have to keep in mind is the growth side, right? We all know that you put money into the TSP, as long as you put 5%, the agency, of course, is going to put their matching contributions in your TSP as well. That's incredible. But the other equation, the other side of the equation, is the growth side, and that is affected by which investments you pick. Now, I'm not going to dig into the investment strategy super deep here. If you want to know more about that, just type into Google, say, hey, Haas Federal Advisors, how to invest the TSP. And there'll be tons of stuff that come up you can check out on some of the best investment strategies, which funds to pick, all that good stuff. When it comes to today, it's important to know how quickly things actually can double, right? And for this is a really cool rule. They're called the Rule of 72. Some of you might have already heard it. Long story short, if you take 72 and divide it by the average rate of return that you get, the answer is how many years it's going to take to double your money. For example, let's say you're earning a rate of return of 9% a year, okay? So you take 72 divided by 9, and that equals 8. So if you get 9% a year, it's going to take 8 years for you to double your money. Now, that's not even talking about putting extra money into the TSP as contributions. So if you did nothing, just invested your money, earned 9% a year, it'd take you 8 years to double your money. So ideally, with you putting tons of money in as well, you can double your money a lot more quickly than every 8 years, or whatever the math comes out to, depending on what you earn in the TSP based on the investments you pick. Now, tip number 3, and that is down markets are your friend. Because when it comes to the most successful investors out there, from Warren Buffett to anyone else that is extremely successful, just to even the average TSP millionaire, right? The average, I say average, but being a TSP millionaire is a big deal, right? The people that truly understand this tip are those that really are the most successful, and that is down markets. When the market is having a rough time, that is an incredible time for you, because people understand, hey, when the market's down, that is when you get a discount on all your investments, right? Because before a down market, let's say you have to pay $100 a share, whatever it ends up being, right? But when the market comes down, well, maybe it goes down to $80 a share. Well, great, you get a discount and you can invest more at that lower amount. And then over time, of course, it'll go up And you'll earn more over time because you invested when the market was down. Now, I totally understand this is a lot easier to say than to practice, right? I know it is scary, it's uncomfortable when the market goes down. I know, I get it, right? I have money in the market too. It's not comfortable, right? But if we do this over time, we practice this, okay, it's no fun to watch the market go down, but what advantage can you pull from those situations? And that is you can double down, you can put money in, you can invest and do your best over time. And those things are what will make you a very, very successful TSP investor over time. Again, it takes discipline, consistency, but over time, doubling down when the market has its rocky time, you will be so grateful you did at the end of the day. Now, tip number 4, and the most successful TSP investors that double their money as fast as you possibly can, they understand the power of the Roth TSP or after-tax money, a Roth IRA, Roth TSP, whatever. Now, it doesn't make sense for everyone to use the Roth TSP. Some people are very high earners. There's lots of circumstances where it may not make sense, but the most successful investors understand at least the power of the Roth TSP. For example, in retirement, if you have $500,000 in a traditional TSP, well, you really don't have $500,000. You have $500,000 pre-tax, meaning that's not spendable money ready to go, right? But if you have $500,000 of a Roth TSP, well, as long as you follow all the rules, well, that's $500,000 of spendable money. That's yours. You get to keep. The government's not taking a piece of that, right? So in reality, let's say you're maxing out the TSP. Let's say you're under 50, right? So you're putting in $20,500 in 2022. That's the contribution limit for 2022. So you're putting in that amount into the TSP. Well, if you put that into the traditional TSP, that's great. If you put it into the Roth TSP, it's actually worth more than putting the same amount of money in the traditional TSP. Again, it's a whole tax question of where you should put your money, but the most successful investors understand that doubling their money in the Roth TSP is so valuable, and actually more valuable than doubling your money in the traditional TSP. Obviously, we want as much growth as we can on both fronts, but understanding how powerful after-tax money is crucial. Now, tip number 5, and this tip is kind of different because the most successful TSP investors understand that the TSP actually isn't everything, right? They understand, hey, sometimes maybe you hit the contribution limit for the TSP, or whatever reason, maybe it makes sense to use a Roth IRA, maybe a traditional IRA, maybe just a brokerage account, maybe saving for college in a 529 plan. There's other places where you can put your money and invest it for the future, maybe in HSA, right? There's different places outside the TSP where you can build wealth as well. And the TSP is an incredible tool, right? I'm not knocking it at all. It does things incredibly well. But the most successful investors understand that there's other buckets that have pros and cons as well. So to tailor where you put your money for your needs is crucial. And saving money in a Roth IRA or these other accounts can be super helpful to grow wealth in a tailored way for you. Now, tip number 6, and that is the most successful TSP investors, again, they understand that even as they approach retirement, even if they're close to retirement, they understand how crucial it is to still continue to want to double their money and grow their money seriously over time, right? Because they understand that retirement and life can be a long time, and life expectancies are only increasing. They're only increasing. So the odds of all of us living longer than our parents, grandparents are actually pretty high, right? We don't know. No one knows anything. Life can bring all sorts of surprises, but we have to plan, at least for planning purposes, on you and your spouse living a long time and having the money and the resources to have a fulfilling and great life the entire time, right? So you have to make sure that even as you approach retirement, it's a common and popular belief that once you get close to retirement, you don't want to worry about growth anymore. You just want to, hold on to what you have. You want to hold it too tight. And what I've seen, those people that do that they just try to keep what they've earned and worked so hard to have. They hold it so tight. By doing that, sometimes they actually lose the money they were trying to hold on to so much. And the reason I say that is because inflation, right? By not trying to get growth in retirement as well, inflation sneaks in the back door, and maybe the dollar amount won't go down in retirement by investing super conservatively or keeping it in cash. The dollar amount won't change, but the buying power between right now and 20 years ago and right now and 20 years from now, it's going to be a big difference. It's a big difference. So even in retirement, I'm not saying go crazy. I'm not saying you have to be super aggressive in retirement, but your long-term money, the money you don't need for a while, you've got to be aggressive with that, right? You've got to get growth over time so that you can maintain your standard of living over time, and so that your money is growing with you as well. Of course, in retirement, you want to have short-term money too that is conservative. Again, that's a topic for another day on kind of how to structure that. But the most successful investors understand how long the game is that they're playing, right? This is not a short game. This is a long game. You have to have a long-term strategy that makes sense so that you continue doubling your money in your TSP as much as you possibly can. Tip number 7. So I think this is tip number 7. I kind of lost track, but tip number 7 is you just have to have some discipline and some consistency. And growing money and investing money sometimes is not the most exciting, right? Sometimes it's kind of boring to just let things sit there and let it grow over time, right? And there was a story I heard, I can't remember if it was on a podcast or something, I can't remember exactly where I heard it, but this person was interviewing a very successful and well-known coach who they coached Olympic weightlifters. Okay, so they coach these very, very high-level athletes. And the interviewer, they asked the coach, they said, hey, what sets apart the most successful athletes at the Olympics that you have coached from the maybe not so successful, right? And what the coach said was really interesting. I really never heard it before. And he said, the most successful athletes are those that are okay with the boring nature and the monotony of the training that you have to consistently do. It gets boring. It gets boring because you do a lot of the same things over and over and over and over. And some people just can't, they want more excitement, right? They want something new and they want to try something new when the old principles of discipline consistently and doing all these things right over a long period of time, that's what gets you success. That is what made the most successful weightlifters successful, is being okay with the basics and doing them well, executing on them well, consistently over time. So when it comes to your TSP, it's like planting a tree. If you sit there and watch it and you want to see it grow, it's not going to do it right in front of your eyes. You got to nurture it. You got to do the right things. You got to do all the things we talked about in this video, and then leave it be. You got to let it do its thing. You have to be disciplined about it. You have to have an approach that says, hey, over time, these are the principles of success. I'm going to follow them, and the rest will take care of itself. So I hope that was helpful. If there's any TSP tips that have helped you save money and be prepared for retirement, please put in the comments below on the YouTube channel. All the federal employees here in the community really benefit from all the interaction and the great advice that you guys give to each other. It makes a huge, huge difference. So have an incredible rest of your day, guys. We'll see you soon.